Hello designers and welcome back to another Affinity Designer tutorial. Today we're going to be recreating a stock photo using only vectors. I'm going to walk you through the illustration process and break down each part. We are going to be using a variety of tools to achieve our goals, but every tool is part of Affinity Designer, so no add-ons needed. We will create a backdrop, a candle holder, a candle, a table, and some matches and some curtains. Here is the stock photo, and here is the completed version. If you haven't already checked out my pen tool and node tool tutorial, go ahead and watch that as it will help. As always, I'll be sharing tips and tricks along the way with shortcuts that can be useful to speed up your design process. Okay, are you ready? Let's do this. And we're back in Affinity Designer. We're going to be recreating a photo we find on a stock photography website. So first things first, if you're following along with me, my document setup is 1920 by 1080 pixels. I'm currently on the Move tool. This is this arrow. Some of the other ones we'll be using today, Node tool, which is shortcut A, Pen tool, shortcut P, and we'll be using some of the other ones. I'll let you know as we're doing it. So let's get started. Head on over to the Stock tab, click on that, and type into this search field here, still life with candle holder with candle on table. And it's under pixels, okay? So just press return and they'll pop up like this. Click on the first one, it says Alex Louvière. Click and drag out onto the document. Shout out to Alex for this photo, thanks for that. Okay, let's resize this. So I've zoomed out a little bit. I'm gonna grab the handle, I'm gonna click on command, and I'm gonna drag in like that. And that drags in proportionately. Scales down proportionately, I should say. So let's have a look at this photo that we've got. So the first thing I'm going to look at is to make sure that it's vertically aligned, as it's going to help when we recreate things, especially this candle holder here. So I want to make sure that that is completely straight. I'm going to go ahead to the ruler on the side there, and I'm just going to click and drag out a guide. So I'm just going to chuck it in the middle somewhere like that, and just zoom in to see whether it's properly vertical. It isn't, look. So it looks like it up here, but it's not down here. So I'm going to zoom out slightly, and I'm just going to grab one of these handles and going to rotate it around. So I've rotated it a little bit. I'll click and drag that just to test. That looks vertical to me. The next thing I'm going to do is crop this down a little bit. I don't want it to be this tall. Let me just click and drag this guide off. So as I was saying, I don't want it to be this tall, the image. I'm going to go ahead and click on rectangle tool. That's M, the shortcut. And I'm just going to click off of that, click and drag out the shape so I can select what I want in the picture. So I can't see anything right now, and some kind of fill is on it. As you can see up here, some fill is there. I'm going to go to opacity on the right-hand side and just drag it down a little bit. And so we can see our selection. So I want it to be like a bit like that. Drag it up a bit more like that. And I want more of the width. And I'm going to go ahead to opacity and bring it up again. Now let's click on the layers to see what we've got. So we've got our photo and we've got our rectangle. And what we're going to do is clip the photo inside of the rectangle. So click on the photo, click, drag up and to the right. And it should look like that, and you can see what's happened. Let go, and now you can see it's clipped inside of this shape. So we're going to call this original. Press return, it's all named. Click on V, the move tool again, and just click and drag it to the side here. So I'm going to duplicate this shape so that we can make our own version. As it's selected, I click on Command J, and that will duplicate it. You can see in the layers panel it's populated. We'll just quickly name it our version. Press return. Okay, let's drag it out to the right hand side. So I'm going to keep my finger on shift and click and drag out like that. You see that yellow line helps me to know it's kind of dragging horizontally and not deviating. So I'll chuck it about there. And I'm going to delete the image inside. So this will be our version. So it's up to you which element you design first in this. If you were just doing it by eye and working on the right hand side here, I'd probably start with the background first, and then like go from whatever's in the distance and then go to the curtain and then the table, and then the candle, etc. But I'm not necessarily going to be doing it in the correct order today, and I'm going to be tracing around some of these objects, so just follow along with me. So I will do the background first though, just for now, just to see what it looks like. So you can see on the bottom it's slightly darker, and on the top it's got a lighter brown color. My one is not that color, so let's go ahead and use the fill tool over here. Shortcut is G. Click on that. I'm just going to click and drag down on our shape. And if you just want to keep it perfectly vertical, just click on Shift and then you can drag down. Just so you know, any shortcut I talk about today is all about the Mac. If you use a Windows computer, it's slightly different, not that different. I'll leave some information in the info section in YouTube. Okay, let's continue. So let's choose our colors. I'll click on the bottom one and I'll head up to the color picker tool here. And I'm just going to click on that and drag it over somewhere like this. And I've selected, and in that little section there, that's the color we've just picked out. I'm going to click on it and you can see it's changed. We'll do the same for the top. There are many ways to go about this. You can create yourself like a swatch of all of these colors, which I talked about in one of my other videos, but today we're just doing it by eye. So I'm going to click on the top one, color picker tool again, and I'll choose the lightest section here. And there it is. So we'll just leave it like that for now. So I'm going to create the table next. So I'm going to click on the pen tool, which is shortcut P. Click on that, and we're going to zoom in and just click somewhere where it starts off. Click on the corner and click somewhere like that. If you didn't get it quite right, remember you can always hold down Command, which is your shortcut for the node tool, and just click on one of the nodes and play around like that. I'll just go up, click and drag. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just kind of showing you the tools. I want to select this one again so I can continue my shape. So I'm going to press Command, click on that node so it knows that that's where we're starting off from again. And I'll just click somewhere like that. And we'll close the shape here. And let's just give it some kind of color. It doesn't matter what it is at this point. Okay, back to the Move tool. Press V and just drag it across. Okay, let's color this properly. So again, I'm going to use the Fill tool. Click on that, and I'm just going to click and drag down, again holding Shift so it stays straight. So what I can see from here is that it's lighter here and it goes as a gradient down to slightly darker gray. So again, I'll click on the bottom one, color picker tool, select the lightest part at the bottom and click. And we'll do the same for the top again. Click on that. Choose somewhere, it's probably like that here. Bit darker there, and click, and we have our color. So as you can see, we have two shapes here, and this is kind of coming out to the side here. We can clip that inside of our big rectangle. So again, I'm going to press V, the Move tool, and here in our Layers panel, I'm going to click down and to the right, and you can see that's clipped inside now. Let's not forget to name the table in the Layers panel. So we'll just call it Table. And it helps when things start getting a little bit messy. Okay, in the Layers panel, let's just close that up. And let's head on over and create this candle holder. So looking at it, I can see it's just a bunch of shapes really. This is an egg shape, kind of that you can make from a circle. This is like some kind of line. We can make this from the rectangle tool. And this is another thing we can make from the rectangle tool. It's a square that's elongated and it's got some rounded corners. So let's start doing it step by step. So looking at the base, it looks completely black, but there is a little reflection on the side there. So I'd create this by clicking on the ellipse tool. Click on that, click somewhere in the center that you think is the center anyway. I'm going to click, press Command and drag out. So it kind of expands from the center going out, and I'll just drag it to where I kind of think and drag it down a little bit more. I'll let go here and I'll do the rest with the Move tool. So I'm going to press V on the Move tool. I'm going to drag it down to about here and drag it down to about there, just where that reflection is here. Maybe I could drag it in at the side and out a bit there. And I think that looks just about right. So I'll just drag it out here There we go. So the next thing I want to create is this bottom section, like the side of the base. I'm going to duplicate this shape to create that. So you can see the layers panel here. I'll just drag that on top up here. I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Command J. See, here it is. And I'm going to grab the bottom layer here, and I'm going to click, keep my finger on Shift, and drag down so it doesn't deviate away from like a vertical path. So down it goes there. I'll just make it slightly darker so we can see the difference. And I'll zoom in here on the side. And I don't want it to be going in like this. I want it to connect to this shape up here in a straight line, like a base would. So the first thing I'm going to do, as we've dragged out a shape, is convert it to curves so we can play around with the nodes. So right now, if I go to the node tool, which is A, you can't see the nodes. But if I go back to the pen tool, back to the move tool, head up to curves up here, click on convert to curves. Now they are curves and we can play around and add more nodes. Click on A, and now you can see we can select the nodes and we can create new ones. So that's what we're going to do. Click create a node there, and you can see this one, not sure if you can, it's a smooth node, which means it can go around like that in a smooth kind of style. I want that to be a sharp node, which means it will turn into a square. So how I do that is keep my finger on Alt, and I head on over and I click once. And you see now that's a square. So I can drag that out and across so it kind of meets this section here. So this is where snapping would be useful, okay? Head on up to snapping, click on that, and I'll just show you which ones are selected for me. And now if you grab the node and go across, you see it kind of snaps to points. So I want to choose the center of this circle. I'll just zoom out to show you that. So I'm clicking and dragging, and there we go. The red line is the horizontal line, which means we're in the center. I'm just going to click on that bit. Okay, that bit's done. Let's do the same for the next side. So going in, I'll just click anywhere there, press Alt, click, it's a sharp node, drag up till you see that red line. There we go. And that is our base pretty much done, but let's just change the colors slightly. So I'm going to press V, the move tool, select the top layer. I'm going to choose some kind of black. So it's black there, and I'll just put a bit more gray into it just in case it has got reflection in our one. And now I'm going to grab the base. I'm going to make that completely black. And that's done. So we have two layers here which make up the base. So I'm going to select the first one, hold Shift, select the second one. I'm going to group them together. So Command G to group. And we're going to call it base. Let's move on to creating the next bit. So you can see here our stem. We're going to recreate that. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool for this one, which is shortcut M. I'm going to click on it, zoom in, and just click and drag out a bit like that. I'll just make it red so you can kind of see. All I have to do is drag down now, all the way to the bottom. So I can't really see where it ends. I could always press on V, the move tool, click on this one, and just bring down the opacity so I can see kind of where it ends. If you zoom in, you can kind of see where it ends here. There's a little reflection. So I'll just drag that down to about there, and I'll just bring the base opacity up again. If you wanted to round off the base like real quick, we're not going to do it this way. You could head up to the corner tool up here, click on that, click and drag over two nodes, and click and drag upwards, because it's going to be a bit rounded at the bottom there, but it doesn't leave a sharp edge there that I want. So I'm just going to press Command Z to go back. I'm going to click on the move tool again, and just going to convert it to curves. Convert to curves, there we go. Now we can start playing around with the nodes. So I've pressed A, the node tool, and just going to click and drag it up a little bit. And I will click and drag that out whilst keeping hold on Shift. So you see it kind of goes like that, ended around here, estimated. And I don't want it to end kind of like that. That doesn't look like a round pole to me. So I'll just click and drag that out like so. Now I'm going to keep my finger on Shift so it's a straight line going down. And I'll do the same again with this one here. So I'll click and drag that across. When it gets to around here, I press on Shift, so it straightens it out. You can see here, it kind of stops naturally. It's because this node here, this handle, is meeting up with this handle. And a lot of these can be kind of configured through your snapping up here or the snapping options here. We're not going to launch into that today. Let's make it black like it is. So there we go, it's black. And I think I'll just extend that a little bit more. So we'll overlay the next shape over this. Just having a look at it, looks pretty good to me. We might have to make that slightly darker later. Okay, let's create this section here. Let's name our stem that we've just created in the layers panel. So I'll just click on it there and just call it stem, keep it all organized. Okay, this next bit, let's grab the rectangle tool, click on that, and just zoom in, choose a point kind of up here, click and drag it out. Doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Let go, and let's just drag it out to where we think it ends, because this is a slight reflection of the room, the light from the wall. You see it's a bit brown there, and I'll do the same with this side as well. And now I'm going to hit Move tool, V, and I'm just going to make sure it's centered. So if I click and drag it around, if I drag it around like that, this is showing on the stem down there that it's centered to that stem. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click and drag it down. In fact, let me change the color of this so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe I'll give it some opacity as well. Okay, so I'm going to drag it down to around about here. I'm not going to use the corner tool on this because you can see these corners aren't so smooth. They kind of stop. If you zoom out, it stops, and then it's a bit more abrupt. So I'll click and drag it to about here. And the next thing I'm going to do is click on Convert to Curves. Click on that and now change to the node tool, which is A. And here I'm going to go kind of to the center, and you can see it's kind of snapping. I can see it's the center of that stem. Zoom in a little more. And I'm going to click and drag down, but I'm going to hold Shift as well to keep it centered. You see here? So it's not deviating again. And I think it ends around there. Now I'm going to choose one of these sides here, one of these nodes. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to move it into place. So I think it kind of goes around like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I think it's maybe something like this. Okay, now that I've done that, I want to do the same with this side, but to make sure I get it perfectly correct like I have on this side, so it's the same, I'm going to go up and use one of these snapping options. So you see snap here, if you go right to the end, it says perform construction snapping. Click on that. We're going to click on it and try and recreate what we did on that side, and you'll see the construction snapping kick in. I go to around about here, and you can see the construction snapping is kicking in now. Now if I just let go, I keep my finger on Shift and click inwards. You see, as I'm dragging it down, it's stopping. There's like a little red dot it snaps to. That is basically snapping to this handle here. So just to test that out, I'm going to click on a guide. So I'm going to click from the side here and drag a guide down, and you can see they are exactly the same, both sides. Okay, let's zoom out and chuck that guide away. Let me just press V. Zoom in again, and let's finish this shape off. In fact, you can see I could have gone a bit lower there. So I'll just do that. Just do it on this side and on this side as well. There we go. Okay, that side's done. Let's sort the top bit out. So I can see it kind of goes up in a round circle like this, and it is very smooth, that circle, like here. So I'm going to go ahead and select the ellipse tool over here, select that, and I'm going to click, I'll choose somewhere in the middle like that, click and drag out whilst holding Command. Now click it until it reaches the side. You see it's kind of snapped to that side, right hand side. Now I'll go over to the left hand side, click and drag it out until it snaps to there. Okay, now I'll press the V, the move tool, and I will move it down so it snaps on to the top there. Now all I have to do is drag it up whilst holding Command, because otherwise this happens. And I think it kind of ends about there, so I'll let go. Okay, that's all done now. So we're going to add these two shapes together as one. So in the layers panel, or you could do it here, I'll select the top one, hold down shift, select the second one, and now I'll go up to the geometry tools and click add. Now that's all one shape now. I'm going to bring up the opacity again like that and make it black. Okay, using the move tool, I'm going to click and drag it out whilst holding shift so I can snap it back into place. I'm just going to look at what we have here. So I'm not sure if you can see on the computer screen here, but there is a slight reflection at the bottom and the side there. So we're just going to go ahead and add that. I won't use the gradient tool this time. This time I will just create shapes and give them a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to grab the first one, I'm going to drag it, click and down like that. I'm going to give that a color. So I'm going to go up to the picker tool, click and drag on that. And in fact, I'll just give it the same color as the background here. So I'm just going to click on that and there we go. The color's changed. I'm going to press V, the move tool. I'm going to clip this shape inside of here. So click down and to the right. And now it's clipped inside of there. And I'm going to click on Effects, Layer Effects, Gaussian Blur. I'm going to bring the radius up a little bit, maybe about that much. And I'm just going to press scale with object in case we have to scale this up and down a little bit later. Okay, so I can see it continues to go up like that. I don't want it to do that because this is black here. So I'm going to press convert to curves and do what we've been doing. I'm going to press the node tool. I'll click somewhere like that and just drag that away. So it kind of ends there. And I'm going to do the same now that this is done here. You can see it goes around a little bit there. So I'm just going to create some more nodes here. So click one there, drag it to kind of the center, and maybe I'll click this one here, drag this up like so. And with this one, I'm going to create a more of a rounded, like a smooth node. So I could just select that one and click up here on convert to smooth. There we go. It's converted it to a smooth one. Now, obviously these are the sort of finer details. I could do the same with this one as well. And just make sure that's straight there. And I just want to add one to the other side there. So I'm just going to do the same again. I'm going to copy this shape that we have here. So I'm going to press V, the move tool. I'm going to press Command J to duplicate that. I'm going to flip it around. So I'm going to flip horizontally like that. I'm going to drag it off to the side. And we don't want it to go all the way because there is no reflection on that side. So I'm just going to delete a few nodes, pressing the node tool. I'll select somewhere like that. We'll get rid of the top three. In fact, I'll get rid of this one too. And you can kind of see it just kind of ends around here. Press V, the move tool, just drag it down a bit. Yeah, something like that. It's a little bit darker, so I could just bring down the opacity slightly. And that's done for that piece here. So just press V, the move tool. We'll go up in the layers panel and just name it. Obviously we have to do the top bit here, but we'll just name it holder. Now if we drag it into place again, and it will snap into place. There we have our holder for the candle. We did have to add one more thing, didn't we? Which was this section here. It's like a little bit light there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to press the pen tool. I'm going to click and drag it about here. We're going to add a stroke to this. So head on up to the stroke. Let's make it slightly thicker. You can't see anything because it's black right now. So let's change that color to white. Go back on the thickness again and something like that. If I want to make the edges thinner here, I could just use pressure. So I click on pressure, click in the middle. So I've created a node in the middle here, and I can just drag the sides down like that. And something like that looks good. Now I just want to make that shape. I don't want to keep it a stroke. So I'm going to go up and go to layer and expand stroke. Click on that. And now you see that's a stroke. It's got all the nodes around it. Use the move tool. We'll keep that where it is for now. Click on our holder, hold shift, click, drag across. And now I'm going to clip this. This is our reflection. I'll just name it so you can see on the screen. So I'll click on it, hold, press down to the right, and that clips it inside of that shape again. So it's all within the holder. And let's just go in and click on FX, Gaussian blur. Let's bring that up a little bit, and I'll press scale with object. Press close, and it's there. It's a bit white. We probably don't need it that white because the original I don't think is white. It's much thinner than that, isn't it? But because we're working in vector, you can always go back and change everything. So if we wanted to make that slightly thinner, well, let's play around with the Gaussian blur a bit first. Let's have them both on screen, shall we? So I'll click on the Gaussian blur, bring it down slightly. And in fact, I can make it smaller than that. And this is where another tool comes in handy. So if I just click off of Gaussian blur, so we're back to our shape, press close, head on up to this tool here, contour tool. I recently made a video about the contour tool. So if you want to see that, I'll leave a link in the description. Click on it, and let's just zoom in so you can see what it's going to do. I'm going to click and drag down, well, to the left slightly like that. And you see it's kind of making it smaller. And now I'll just press bake appearance. And it's much smaller than it was before. In fact, I could probably just press V, the move tool, and just drag that out a little bit. Now it's smaller. And we'll give it a slightly different color. Let's give it, it's still white, isn't it? But let's just make it a little bit darker. You can either use the grays here, go from white to gray, or you can just use the opacity so it takes on whatever's underneath it. So I'll just use that here. Click on the FX tool, Gaussian blur again, let's get that going. And there, it's only a small detail that I've spent ages on, but the devil's in the detail, I guess. So there it is, it's done. Let's grab the holder, click on V, the move tool, and we'll press shift and click and drag it to there. So it's in place now. So let's have a look at what we've created so far. It's all of this lot here, looking pretty good. When you zoom out, it kind of looks a bit real, doesn't it? Time to make the candle. Okay, let's first package these up into a group as our candle holder. So they're all selected already. So I press Command G to group, and you see in the layers panel, it's grouped together, and we can now call it candle holder. Press return. Okay, let's get rid of that for now. So I'll just untick it so it's invisible. I'm going to go in and see what it's like. Okay, so I'm probably going to use the pen tool for this whole thing here. You could draw out a long rectangle, but it looks like it's slightly lopsided here. It's not like a straight line. So if I just grabbed it from there and went down, you see it's kind of not perfect, but we're just going to use the pen tool for this one. So head on up to the pen tool or press P, and let's start somewhere where there's a sharp corner. Maybe, actually, in fact, let's start in the middle here. So I'm going to click and drag out whilst holding shift. So we get this kind of look. See if it kind of moves in 45-degree angles. I'm going to click and do that. Actually, I'm going to click to about here. We've still got our stroke on, so I'll just get rid of that. Click off of stroke. And now I'll just select this one again whilst holding Command to go to the node tool. Click on that. All right, we can start from here again. And I'll probably just click to about there. And whilst holding down Shift and Command, I can move this without it affecting too many other things. If I didn't hold those two down, it would just be like this when I'm moving it. So I'm holding Command and Shift like that, and I will go up and we'll go around and meet it back on this point here. So I've got it in this section here. I'll go all the way up to the top because that's a straight line there. And I'll just click to about here, and I'll click and drag up like that. I'm going to hold down Shift to keep it in a straight line like that. And let's zoom in. Just click around like this. So from this point, I'm just going to continue doing that using all the things I've told you already. And if I come across anything I haven't told you already, I'll slow the video down. All right. It's really handy whilst you're in the pen tool to just use the shortcut to the node tool. So just pressing Command node tool, and you can play around with the handles as well, rather than changing to and fro from the actual node tool to the pen tool. So that's what I do. So here I made a little mistake and I just want to change it. So Command and Shift, click and drag up like that. There we go. I fixed my problem. Okay, moving on. Okay, we're at the last node here. So click and drag out whilst holding Shift. The candle shape is done. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a white fill. You can either do it from up here or from over here. I'll just do it from over top left this time. I'll just give it some kind of color for now, and we will drag it out to the side so we can check out the different kinds of colors. So click, hold Shift, drag it to the side. Let's try and recreate these colors that we see here. So it looks like we can use the gradient tool for this. So it goes kind of from this light brown to white and maybe a little bit brown again. Let's test it out. So click on the fill tool over here, shortcut G, and we'll just click and drag across like so. And I'll zoom in so we can see what we're looking at. So I'll choose this color first and I'll pick a color over here. So get the dropper tool, choose some kind of color, head up, click, you've chosen that one. And for this side, I'll do the same on this side. Let's just see what color it comes up with if I do this, see what it looks like. Okay, that's kind of cool, but I can see down here there's a lighter patch. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to click there and let's see if the eyedropper tool does it. If not, we can always do it manually and choose our color. So it is a bit lighter. I think we could go a bit more light than that. So I could just do this manually up here. Okay, that looks about right. I think this side is slightly darker as well. So I'll just click and drag, do that manually myself as well. Okay, that looks about right. Maybe you could play around with these handles a little bit. These kind of center handles, so you could split the difference. Let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, it looks kind of good. Obviously, you can see this grain here. We can actually sort that out a little bit later. If I just press the move tool, I can show you what I'm talking about. We won't apply it just yet, but see this has grain on it because it's a photograph. Head up to opacity here, click on switch. You see this little circle? Click on that and it says noise. If I click and drag that up, you can see we can add noise and it's almost looking the same now. See the noise from the photo and the noise from this tool that Affinity's provided? It's giving you the noise to use. So if we zoomed out, it kind of looks the same, but we're not going to use that yet. You can apply all of these if you want afterwards, but let me just drag the noise back down. Okay, let's name the candle in the layers panel and have a look at the top section here. I'm not sure how much you can see from my screen quality wise, but you can see we use the gradient tool here and the lighter section goes up and it goes right up like that. Whereas in reality, if the light was coming from this direction, there'd be a kind of light source going kind of this way, like it is on the photo. So what I'm going to do for this section, I'm going to grab a pencil tool here, click on that. You can see everything that's selected here, stabilizers on, use fill, and this window mode is on. What I'm going to do is just draw out some kind of round circle like this on our version. So I'm going to click and drag out like this and maybe down, maybe somewhere like that. I'm going to close off this shape. So I'm going to press A, the node tool, select both of those nodes. You see there's no blue line here. I'm going to close that off, go up to Action and Close Curve. Head on up to where it says Noise, click that so it goes back to opacity, bring that up so it's fully white. And now we're going to head down and click on Layer Effects and Gaussian Blur. We're going to bring that up a bit. So bringing it up, I'm going to put quite a lot of blur in there. I think around about there looks good. I'm going to press Close. And we're going to clip this inside of our candle shape. So click down and to the right. And now it's in there. Let's zoom out, see what it looks like. So that looks a bit too white, doesn't it? So what I can do from this point is just bring down the opacity of that reflection. So I'll just name it. So I've named it. I'm going to bring down the opacity slightly. There we go, around almost 50%. And that section is kind of done. Now let's work on this area here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it from around that section there. So just click on candle, head over to the pencil tool again, and I'm going to make this in 2 sections, I think. One base layer and then one slightly darker section here. I'll work on the top section, I guess, the darker section. So there we go. I'll just trace around this bit here. Close off the shape, just like we did before. Join curves. I'll make that a slightly darker color, bring up the opacity. So I'll make it kind of that dark there. And now I will make another shape for the base. So again, pencil tool. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you kind of just trace around what you think it should be like. There we go. Switch to the node tool again, select those 2 nodes, close the curves with this one, and I'll make this slightly lighter. I'll drag it underneath on the layers panel, so it kind of looks like that. Bit of a blob, bit strange. We're going to transfer that over to our candle. So I'm going to press V, the move tool. I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to click and drag it across whilst holding shift, so it ends up in the same kind of spot. So I think it's around about there. And I'll clip that inside of the candle as well. Okay, let's play around with the Gaussian blur. So I'll do the base shape first. Effects, Gaussian blur, bring it up. Let's have a look at the other one whilst we're doing this. Bring it up to about here. You can see it's kind of burnt the wax a little bit. And I'll do the same thing with the top layer. So effects again, Gaussian blur. I'll give that one slightly less of a Gaussian blur this time. I think they're a bit brown compared to this one, so I can change the color of these. Just press close on the effects there. So we're on the top one right now. I'll just change the color slightly to make it a little bit more black. And the same thing for this one here. And now that it's black, I think I could bring down the opacity slightly on that one. And same for the top one as well. It's all about playing around on affinity until you feel like you've got it right. Let's zoom out and see what we've got. Press V, the move tool, and just click elsewhere so I don't see all that. So it is all vector. Obviously this has some grain to it, but once you add the grain on top like we did with the candle, it can start looking a bit more real. Or you could just use a raster brush. Up to you really. Okay, that is a bit too black. I'm going to bring down the opacity on that. Let's work on this wick over here. So again, I'm going to copy from this one. So I just click on candle. So whichever one we make goes on top, right? I'm going to head on over and start drawing out. I think this is a 2-parter. So I'm just going to use the pen tool for this. Just going to click anywhere around here. Take off snapping so it doesn't start bothering us. Okay, something like that. Give it a white color for now and hide it. Now we'll work on this section here, but I'll just name this wick and we'll start the next one. So for this, I'll use the pencil tool because it's a bit more wavy. Start from up here and just kind of trace around it. I'll close that off just like we've been doing before. Select both of them, close curve. This one I will make a smooth node. See, it's a little bit more smooth now, and I could probably get rid of this one here. Play around with it. Something like that. Okay, and I'll make that black. And I'll make both visible. And I'll just drag them off to the side a little bit. So we've got this black section here. It looks like this isn't completely white, so we can play around with that. So I will probably add a gradient on this one as well. So I'll just click on that. Click and drag out, just like we've been doing before. Color picker tool, some kind of dark color there. And with this one, it's slightly lighter, with a bit of brown to it, because it's obviously been burning around there. And you can see up here, it's a little bit brown from where it's kind of been, where the flame has been. So we can add another thing there. So head on over to the pencil tool again, and just click and drag around, follow that line. Close off that shape. Choose a kind of brown color, maybe a dark one like this. So over here in the layers panel, we have wick. We have the burnt section here. We're gonna clip that inside of the wick, and we're gonna add a Gaussian blur again. It's all about the Gaussian blur, just a little bit of one. Okay, that's enough. Need to make that darker, and it's a little bit more red, isn't it? So just play around with the color. Okay, let's add this to our candle. So I'm going to select both of them and put them in a group, Command G, and I'll just call the whole thing wick. Okay, let's click and drag across whilst holding Shift, and it's about there, isn't it? And I'll make that behind the candle, because if I zoom in, you can see it's overlaid there, and you can see the candle is underneath. So I'm going to click and drag that underneath so it kind of hides. So if we zoom out, you can see it looks very similar now. Let's make the candle holder visible. So I've just made it visible there. Press the move tool on the candle holder, and we'll just bring that across. And we can add them all together. Command G. This will be our candle. So side by side, there they are. Our version, their version, but we have to do the smoke. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create that smoke. So let's head up and have a look at it. So down here is a little bit white. Looks like it gets a bit more transparent in the middle. And this is going to be the hardest bit to do, where it goes around and overlaps and it's a bit transparent at this area. And then it goes into full transparency. So I'm going to start off by just tracing around this shape, and I'm going to create one shape here and then one shape for the tail. Grab the pencil tool, and I've got the same settings at the top there. I'm just going to start slowly tracing around it, and I'll probably speed this bit up. Okay, switch to the node tool, close that shape, and let's make it transparent. And what I'm going to do now is just go around with the node tool, fixing the mistakes I've made so it meets the smoke outline. I'll start from the top. Okay, that's all been fixed up. I'm going to bring up the opacity and just make it white for now. And now I'm going to draw this tail out here. I said I'd do it in two parts, so here it is. I'll draw this with the pen tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and click it from maybe around here, and just going to draw out my lines. Just click, and snapping is turned on, by the way, so I can just snap to the top of this this piece of smoke here. Can you get a piece of smoke? I don't know. Okay, I want this to be a sharp node here, so I'll just click Control and click on that one there, and kind of hide this in there. And from this section, I will just come out so it meets that curvature and drag it to around here. Okay, I'm going to make this white as well. Okay, let me drag them both off to the side. There's a couple of ways you can copy this style. Well, there's many ways. But one of them could be like bringing down the opacity slightly and like darkening it up a bit in the center there. But as we've got this overlapping bit, this is the best way I can think of in the moment. So I'm just going to up the opacity again. I'm going to grab I'll select both of them. I'm going to grab the color picker tool, and I'm going to go to the lightest point on the smoke photo. I'm going to click on that, so we've got that color there. And now I'm going to concentrate on the darker areas. So what I'm going to do for the dark areas, probably just going to draw out with the pencil tool around like that. And I'm going to leave room because I'm going to stick a Gaussian blur on there. So I've kind of got room on the outside for it to kind of blend in. I'll just close up that shape there. I'll give it a darker color for now. I'm just going to drag this across over onto our version. I'll use the color picker tool again, click and drag that onto the darkest part in here. So maybe there, click on that. Okay, it's probably a bit darker than that, so I'll just do it manually. Okay, somewhere like that. And now I will go ahead and click on Effects and Gaussian blur to kind of add that Gaussian blur on there. Could make it darker again, I think. Yeah, about there. We just zoom out, see what it looks like. Starting to come together. I'll just play around with the nodes a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to add these little highlighted edges here, a slightly lighter color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the pencil tool. I'll just start drawing and we'll turn it a bit white, I think. So I'll just start around here and just follow along the outline of the edges here. Also, these two shapes that we've created here, we're going to clip this inside of the big smoke. So I'm just going to call it, this is our main smoke. We're going to call it Big Smoke. And we're going to grab both of those things and drag them inside, clip it in there. And then I'll just continue with adding the Gaussian blur on these little highlights. So I'm just going to be doing basically this until it's done. And I'll play around with it to make sure it looks okay. Okay, that's finished there. Obviously it's very sharp, these edges, so what I would do is go to effects and add a Gaussian blur onto that until it looks kind of similar, just a slight one there. Okay, with the tail up here, I'm going to use the transparency tool. I'm just going to click and drag like that till it's completely transparent at the bottom here. So you can change it up here. The opacity is 100 and this one it's 0. So I'm just going to keep it like that. And I can see on the photo there is like an inner tail. So devil's in the detail, let's go for that as well. So I'm just going to duplicate this. So I'm going to press Command J. And now I'm going to grab the contour tool just to make a smaller version of it. I'm going to click and drag in like that till it looks kind of similar. And just going to press Bake Appearance. So now I can play around with the nodes with this one. So I'll just eyeball it from here. And this lot goes in a little bit. I'll just nest this inside of the tail. So I'm just going to call that the tail so you can see on my desktop. And I will add the Gaussian blur as well. On the other one we put 0.1. I'm just going to add that much onto it. Okay, just to finish it off, I'm going to sort out the bottom as well. So I'll go back to Big Smoke and I will draw something around here so it's kind of similar. And I'll add a Gaussian blur onto this one as well. Okay, let's package these up. We've got the tail and the big smoke. I'll press Command G and we'll call it smoke. And I'll just drag it across till it's kind of under there. So obviously the candle is underneath, so I'll drag the smoke down underneath the candle and you can see it's behind there now. And in fact, if you want to play around with it even more, you just double tap, it opens that shape up, and we'll grab the one we just made and just play around until it looks slightly similar. Take a step back to see what it looks like from afar. So I'll just grab both of these, just move them onto this side. Okay, it looks pretty good, but this bit is way too dark. So very easy to just go in and change that so it's kind of similar. And there, this is a little bit lighter up here, and I could probably add some transparency to there. I'll mess around with that later to do the fine tuning, but that's the candle done. So I'm going to package both of those up again, so it's just groups in groups, and I'll call this candle. And we can go ahead and just drag that onto our table. Okay, let's get this curtain done. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the pen tool. I'm just going to copy from up here. Just going to copy the shape of it. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit more. And just follow along the line here, just clicking and dragging with the pen tool until I get to the bottom. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do it in stages. So I'm going to draw out this section here, and then I'm going to draw out this section here, and then I'll do the background after that. Okay, so let's go to this section and trace along it like we were before. Okay, we've got our outline. Let me just give it a white color and press the move tool and just move it off to the side a little bit. Maybe I'll just move it. Yeah, I'll move it here. Okay, so I can see it's a lot whiter here, and then it goes slightly darker there. So I'm just going to press back, and we're going to draw another line going down here to capture that shade. Okay, and I'll just give that a color, and I'll give the main shape we just made a color as well. And I'm going to clip this inside of that shape. So I'm going to drag it down and to the right, and I'll name this. I'll name it first C for curtain, first part of the curtain. Okay, so this is clipped inside there. Okay, I'm just going to press the move tool and move it off to the side. I'll give that its fill back, so the opacity, I'll drag that back up again. And I'm going to use the color picker tool. In fact, I'll put it here so it's easier to see. So for this first color, I will get the color picker tool and just choose a spot, click, and you've got your color. And same thing for this one, I'll just double tap to get in that shape, to the clipped in shape. Grab the color picker tool again, click. And from this point, I will just add a Gaussian blur onto it. And I'll press close. Okay, that's looking kind of good. Yeah, we'll leave it like that for now. There is this section down here as well. It gets a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and grab the shape and just move it a little bit closer so we can copy it. So it kind of goes around like that. So I'll just grab the pencil tool again. Starts from about there. And goes up something like that. All right, let's close off this shape. Grab the color picker tool again, choose that dark color. So it's similar. Clip that inside. Let's use the Gaussian blur on that also. By the way, I haven't been doing it the whole way through, but it is good to click on scale with object. So if you scale up or down, it won't change the look of your Gaussian blur. Okay, that section is done. So let's just grab that and stick it back there. And the next section we'll do is this one here. So we're going to do the same again, and I'll speed it up so I'm not wasting your time. Okay, with this one, it also has a light section and a dark section from where the light's coming from this angle and causing a shadow. So I'm going to do the same for this as well. I can see it coming down around about here. So I'll just kind of trace it out. And I will click and drag to choose the color for that dark section. And I'll do the same for this as well. In fact, I'll choose the color that's over there because it's the same. Okay, so this is our main shape, second C for the second part of the curtain. It's down there for some reason, so we'll just drag that up to the top. And we're going to clip this shadow inside like that. And we're going to add the Gaussian blur again. In fact, I went a bit overboard with this one here, with this node. So I'm just going to drag it down like that. Okay, we can make amendments later, but that's the first section, the second section done, and the background we'll do now. This one, it will be kind of easy because I could just hide it behind these two sections here. So I'll put it around maybe somewhere like that. I'll drag it below first and second, and I'll just put background C. I'll just drag that off and copy the colors. So it kind of goes dark here to light. It's a bit darker on the side there. I think I will just use a color picker tool, choose the color. Okay, so it's slightly darker there and then goes lighter. So I could just use the gradient tool. Just drag it down like that. So this is the color that it was before, and this is the new color. We're going to change that one. I'll choose the color down here. Something like that, and it seems to be just at the bottom. Okay, let me drag that in place. And it looks a bit messy now, doesn't it? What I'll do is nest all of those bits together, or I could just drag it across to our one and just place it behind our table. So I'll open it up. There's our version. There's our table. I'll drag it underneath the table. Okay, looking at them side by side, I can see there are some differences between my one and that one. So I'm going to go in and see if I can fix some of it. The first thing that I'll probably concentrate on is this one. There it goes from dark to pretty much transparent. So I can see underneath. So I'll just show you this bit. I'll just grab the transparency tool, click and drag that down. And I'll just drag that down a little bit more. All right, I'll jump in and make some changes. Okay, that's the curtain complete. I'm going to grab the first C, second C, and the background that we created. We press Command G to group them up, and I'm going to name it curtain. Okay, that's quite a lot of it done. So now I'm just going to concentrate on getting these couple of little shadows in there and fine-tuning the background a little bit before we go ahead and do the matches. So let's go over to our layers panel, and we're just going to throw everything inside. So we've got the candle, the table, the curtain, and we're going to head over and basically grab the pen tool, click, click, you move it around a little bit. We've got to make it quite thin here, and we're going to choose a color. So I'll just make it black for now whilst we move it across. So I'll press V, the move tool, and move it on across and make sure that's above the table. And now we're just going to copy the colors. So grab the color picker tool again. I think it even might be called eyedropper. I don't think I'll ever get it. As you can see, it's one block color. We're going to grab the transparency tool, click and drag out like that so it's transparent on this side. Let's press V, the move tool, and just click off of that. Yeah, it kind of looks okay. Could possibly be a bit darker, but let's just check by switching on our layer effects and a bit of Gaussian blur as well. Just like a shadow, it's not going to be perfectly clear, is it? About that much, I think. Let's have a look at that. Pretty much spot on there. So I'm going to leave that. The next shadow is this one here. And it just comes out a little bit. I'm going to make life easy on myself. And I'm just going to double tap. So we get to our candle. Double tap again. Double tap again. And keep double tapping until it opens up these layers. And here we are on a base. We're going to copy that. So Command J. Drag it across a little bit. I'm going to drag this base because I've just copied it. I'm going to call this base shadow, and I will drag that right to the top. Close that so we don't harm. Close all of these up, and I will chuck it next to my other shadow, which is here. So base shadow is there. Let me just drag it out a bit, and I'll click on Gaussian blur, our best friend. Whack up the radius a little bit. Change the color to match. What's it like? Okay, it's slightly darker. I'm going to drag that in like that. Just play around with it until I get it right. And then, yeah, it's about there. Okay, that's the shadow done. Okay, we are on the last piece of the puzzle, the matches. Let's just jump straight in and do them. Grab the pen tool. I'm going to draw this one underneath. I'm going to trace the outline of it somewhere like that. Go to the end, a bit grainy at this level of zoom, so I'm just going to kind of guess this next bit. And I'll just finish it off. Can be messy there because we're going to stick the head on it afterwards. Okay, so we've got our main outline. I'm going to call that match 1. And all the other shapes that we're going to draw are going to be clipped inside of here. So I'll start off by just clicking what I think is the outline. It can be messy from this point. Give it a color. Anyone can do. Then just click and drag that down and clip it inside, and there it is. So for the next one, I will draw the top part of it. So I'll just click on this node, go all the way up to the top. Let me turn snapping off. Okay, that looks good. So underneath there, and choose any color for now because we'll change that afterwards. And for the last bit, we don't have to draw this in because that is the actual outline. So I'll just drag the color dropper tool, make it a bit darker for now. All right, let's hide this match 1 and draw our outline for this match head. So it goes something like this, just clicking and dragging around. Something like that. I'll give it a bit of a red color as well. And we'll make that obvious again. It looks like it's getting a bit wider at the top there, so I'll just make some amendments. Okay, that's our match head. I could probably use a gradient on this actually, just to give it a little bit more depth. And let's grab them both and just chuck them off to the side here. And then we copy the colors as it is here. So on the side color here, it's pretty much the same all around. Let me just see if I can eyeball the color from the side. And the top one is pretty light, isn't it? So let's drag that up a bit more. Actually, it goes darker at the top here after there. So I will grab the gradient tool and just click and drag up. Click the top one, color picker tool. Oh, I'm gonna have to make it darker myself. So about there, and I'll drag that up to, yeah, around about there. And maybe the same for this side here. It gets a little bit darker underneath. I can sort that out later on. But now that side is a little bit dark, so I'll just lighten that up again myself as well. And the end is definitely lighter, so let's do that. Okay, match 1 is complete. So let's grab both of these, Command G to group them, but I'll just call it match 1, and I'll stick it in place. And now we'll do match 2. I'll forward this bit as you've seen what I'm doing. So I'm just at the point here where I finished the matches, and basically I'm just using the pen tool to trace these shadows, adding a Gaussian blur onto it, and that's it. And they're just under the match layers, so all of them are underneath. So the next shadow I'll make is just over here, and the next one is here. I can use the Gaussian blur, and also don't forget you can use the transparency tool. So if it doesn't come transparent enough at the end, you can just chuck that transparency on there and it disappears. All right, moving on. So I've just clipped a shadow inside of this match here to show that another match is on top, just like it is there. It's not a proper black shadow, it's got some of the orangey yellow in there as they're reflecting the color. Okay, now I'll just play around with the colors to make sure everything is okay. Okay, the matches are complete. I will package them up again, Command G, and call them matches, and I will stick them on our table. So from afar you can see they do look pretty realistic. Go close up and it's a different story sometimes. So I'm going to drag it over to where the matches should be on our table. Okay, before I finish, I just have to do something. It's a little bit darker down here, so I'm going to add that to our candle over here. So I'm just going to double tap until I get into the right layer. So there's our candle. Just use the pen tool. I just draw a little layer like this and make it slightly darker. Maybe I'll just make it about that dark. I'll clip it inside of the candle here. Give it some Gaussian. Not even calling it Gaussian blur anymore. Gaussian. Just giving it some Gaussian. And let's just have a quick look at that. Press scale with object. I always forget that. That is a lot better. Press V, the move tool, just move it down ever so slightly. Yeah, that's looking much nicer now. And that is the completed image. The only things I've added that I haven't shown you, they're simple ones, but I'll show you anyway, are just the shadow of the curtain on the left-hand side. If I just take it off real quick, you can see it's a bit lighter on our one, a bit darker on theirs. So basically, you can see I just used the pen tool to draw out a line like that, added a Gaussian blur, made it a slightly darker brown, added that in. The other thing is the table highlight. So if I click off of that, you can see it's slightly lighter on their side and ours is not. So just with that little extra round circle, basically that's what it is. It's a round circle with a Gaussian blur. It makes a little bit of difference. And the other thing is on the curtain. You look here, is a kind of little line going up there. So I've added that little line as well. So if I just go in, you can see I've just added 2 long triangles and they both have Gaussian blur. And I've also brought down the opacity on the base layer, little triangle. And then I've also brought down the opacity on that one, but that's slightly darker. If you look up there in the colors, oops, see they're slightly darker. So they're the only differences, the only things I've changed, I guess. So after a little bit more of fine tuning, I changed the smoke. So if you see it here, this is all kind of one color there. If we go over to the smoke, it kind of seems to funnel down like that. So I just added a couple extra pieces to that. So I'll just find it here in our layers panel, and you see because it's named, it's easier to find. So I added these 2 at the end here, and they're just shapes again with Gaussian blur. So if you look, I added that, and basically it's the same shape, but I've just brought down the opacity a little bit more. And also this one here, which is the kind of funnel there. I also added transparency element to it, so it goes completely transparent at the top there. And if I just click away, you can see it looks a little bit more like the original. And the last thing I did was, if we look at the photo, if you zoom in a lot, you can see a little highlight there, little highlight there. I forgot to add that earlier. So I just went across to my one and I added a stroke. I expanded the stroke, and I also did it on this one here. I did it exactly the same way we created this part, which was on the candle holder up here, the cup. And that's pretty much all the changes I've made. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've taken something away from this tutorial. It's a bit long and drawn out at times, but if you can take something away from it, that's excellent. Oh, and if you're not subscribed already, subscribe. And if you want to be informed of when my next videos are, hit the notification bell. Okay, see you on the next one.